It's like going out without your car. Where am I going after this? Yeah. Oh, crud. Yeah, okay. Here she is. All right, I'd like to call this meeting of the Santa Barbara Local Agency Formation Commission to order. Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Aceves?
Present.
Commissioner Allen?
Here.
Commissioner Freeman?
Here.
Commissioner Geyer?
Here.
Commissioner Hartman?
Here.
Commissioner Lavanino?
Here.
Commissioner Sierra?
Here.
Commissioner Stark?
Here.
Commissioner Waterfield?
Here.
Commissioner Welt?
Here.
And Commissioner Williams. Let the record reflect Supervisor Williams is absent.
Okay, could you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the October 3rd regular meeting?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Aceves?
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman?
Aye.
Commissioner Geyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman?
Aye.
Commissioner Welt? Commissioner Waterfield?
Aye.
Chair Lavanino?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimous.
Okay, this takes us to our public comment period. This is the time for anybody that would like to address the commission for items not on today's agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
Yes, Chair Lavanino and members of the board, we have two requests to speak on today's during today's public comment. We are going first to Santa Barbara with Tom Fayram, and then we're returning here in Santa Maria with Tim Mahoney.
Okay, both speakers will have 3 minutes.
Thank you and good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the LAFCO board. My name is Tom Fayram and I'm the president of the Los Olivos Community Services District Board. I'm here before you today to provide a brief update on the great progress we have made in Los Olivos since our last request to provide an extension for our establishment of a new assessment for the CSD. In the preceding months, our district has undertaken a series of public workshops that has resulted in a more defined project description and involved a great public process with what I would call amazing public engagement. That process resulted in general consensus in the community on a project description to address the wastewater issues in Los Olivos, and that was what we're moving forward with. Most recently, we've also, as of yesterday, have contracted to prepare an assessment engineer's report, an important and required step to get to a Prop 218 election. We've contracted to get an application into the state resolving fund for loans and grants to help us with that endeavor. And we are also seeking funds from the county EHS department for items including CEQA compliance and developing a groundwater monitoring plan. A lot of progress. And the next milestone is completing the engineer's report and setting the 218 election, and we'll report back to you on when that is complete. Thank you for the opportunity to provide this brief update, and I'm available for any questions as appropriate.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Fayram.
Chair Lavanino, members of the commission, we are going to return now to Santa Maria with Tim Mahoney.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Tim Mahoney. I'm with Southern California Gas Company. I wanted to come out and address the LAFCO board today to talk about a couple of items. And the reason I'm coming to LAFCO is because these two items require land use, and as community leaders, this is something that I would hope that you would like to hear from. So, SoCal Gas Company, we provide the natural gas here in the Santa Maria area, Santa Barbara County, as well as San Luis Obispo County. PG&E does the lights here. We're the ones that operate the gas. So we are moving towards renewable natural gas. So renewable natural gas is gas that is generated from the human waste stream. So this is gas that comes from landfills, dumps, wastewater treatment plants, sewer plants, and dairies, if you will. Of course, in the San Joaquin Valley, there's huge amounts of dairies. So what we're doing in the future, and actually doing it right now, is going out there and capturing that natural methane, the biomethane that's reproduced in these 3 locations, and then we're putting that into the pipeline. A great example of that is in our own city of Santa Maria. You capture the gas at the landfill out there. It goes to Marion Medical Hospital, where it generates electricity through a microturbine. Gas company is just involved in that slightly because we have a hookup, because if that landfill biogas slips out of spec somehow, it rarely does. They can inject some of our gas, which is retail sales ready gas. So the more biomethane right now, a lot of that isn't captured, and it just floats up. It just goes into the atmosphere, creating anywhere about greenhouse gases. So when you capture that gas, you actually are saving the planet at that time. If you take that biogas, put it into a natural gas powered vehicle, in particular an 18-wheeler, a trash truck, any type of large vehicle. Now that vehicle doesn't have to use diesel. So essentially you're cashing the paycheck twice, you're saving the planet twice. So it's a very big thing, and you'll hear more about this as we go forward. If you'd like more information, I can get it to you on renewable natural gas. The other item is really kind of cool. It's called power to gas. So there's an extreme amount of extra electricity made during certain peak hours coming off of the wind and the solar. If you take that electricity, run it through an iodizer, an electrolysis process, you go from electrical chemistry to a more of a hydrogen gas chemistry. That hydrogen gas, and there's oxygen, hydrogen and water, pardon me. So if you take that water and take it off, take the hydrogen, you can also put that into the gas pipeline, and then you get into the whole hydrogen economy. Now that's a ways off in the future. It's popular in Europe. There's only one place in Orange County that's doing it now, but it's coming up. So as you're thinking about land use and what to do, just remember renewable natural gas, and remember this kind of new hydrogen economy which is coming up. So thank you very much.
Thanks
Have a
for
good
being
holidays.
here. All right, thank you. Okay, any other public speakers?
And that was our final speaker.
Okay, that closes the public comment period. We'll move to our consent calendar. Any board members, is there anything that the public wishes to pull from the consent calendar?
Chair Lavanino and members of the commission, I have no requests to speak on the consent calendar.
Do any board members wish to pull anything from the consent? If not, can I get a motion to move the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Can I get a roll call, please, to
Commissioner Seves,
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman,
Aye.
Commissioner Geyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Welt, Commissioner Waterfield,
Aye.
and Chair Lavanino.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimous.
Okay, very good. That takes us to our informational items. Informational item 1.
Chair Lavanino and members of the commission, informational item number 1 is to receive and file a report on the 2019 Cal LAFCO Annual Conference.
Mr. Hood.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Hood, LAFCO Executive Officer. You may note that the agenda this month is jam-packed with information. We have more information items on the agenda than usual. First thing I wanted to talk about is information item 1, which is the report back on the Cal LAFCO Annual Conference. And a number of us, staff, legal counsel, and commissioners attended the conference in Sacramento, October 30th through November 1st. And I'll go through it briefly, and any commissioners that attended the conference, just stop me if there's something you want to talk about or explain further. There was a mobile workshop on Tuesday, so it was very, very interesting, except getting to the bus at 7 a.m. in the morning was a little hard, but we did it. And it was a mobile workshop of West Sacramento, which is across the river from Sacramento, and it's in Yolo County. It used to be called East Yolo, and it's now called West Sacramento. So we looked around the port of West Sacramento. went to the Farmers Rice Cooperative, looked at a newly developed bridge district in West Sacramento, which is pretty impressive. Used to be a pretty low-income, affordable housing area, but now they're trying to attract businesses and residential units, and to the dismay of the city of Sacramento, that is trying to attract the same type of business input. West Sacramento has a riverfront. Sacramento has a freeway, and so they have very limited development potential. And we looked at the Regional Fire Museum. Then some of the various sessions, and I won't go over every session because I only attended, if there was a concurrent session, I attended one. Stress testing for LAFCOs and local agencies in changing times, the way that we coordinate with other agencies, with stakeholders, with regional special districts and cities has changed very much. And it changed a great deal in the past 20 years. And now we act as LAFCOs as a facilitator in many cases, engage participants in planning and review of LAFCO responsibilities. And then a session I attended on the first Wednesday, it takes a village, state, county, and LAFCO collaboration to solve a local problem. And we all know that. We have to cooperate with regional agencies and cities and special districts and the state to solve regional issues. We went across to the state capitol building, and I didn't really understand why, but somebody explained to me that there was an issue that we couldn't get all of the panelists to meet in the Hyatt Regency, so we went over to the state capitol and talked about the Sativa Water District, which was a very interesting special district that had some very serious problems developing, trying to serve water that is very off color, kind of beige or, brown to the residents. And so it took special legislation from the assemblyman and the county supervisor from LAFCO to solve this. And we went into the details of that Sativa County Water District.
Where is that ball?
It's in LA County. Yeah. Not exactly sure exactly the southern LA. In Compton, that's right.
Very low income area.
It has nothing to do with cannabis.
I was going to say, that's a form of cannabis, actually, sativa. So I wasn't going to be the first one to say that, but I was wondering where the heck you was. I figured it was in Humboldt.
Then we had the banquet and awards that night. Thursday was the regional sessions, the regional caucuses, and elections. I'll go over that a little bit later on the agenda. And then we had the business meeting, which the main item of discussion was the Cal-LAFCO due structure. Then we went into regional roundtables, and it was in our regions. And then we had a very interesting author, Mark Arex, and he was, I don't know if you were there, so it was very divisive, talking about his insights and perspective on the history of agriculture in the state and the growing need for resources, water, and pressure on farming and housing. And how the state should control land use, in his opinion. Then we went on to various sessions, innovations in service delivery, municipal service reviews, and leading your LAFCO into the next decade with courage and independence. And that's what our commissioners and staff are wanting to do, and so I think that we're moving ahead on that. That pretty much concludes my comments, but we did have several commissioners that attended, and so I'd open it up to them if they have any questions or any comments at this point.
Ms. Allen or anybody? Mr. Stark?
Sure. I appreciate the opportunity to go. To be candid with you, I think the conference could be a day shorter. They could easily get in the substance that they need in 2 days rather than stretch it out for 3 days. Probably made the comment before. Actually, frankly, the most interesting thing that I found about the conference was the networking opportunities. Not only my fellow commissioners and staff. I thought the innovation workshop was useful. The last LAFCO meeting I went to, I became convinced that the service that we could provide usefully to people is to get information out so that people can act on it. And this conference reinforced that idea that it is valuable, particularly in times of emergencies, for there be like a central repository of information that is useful throughout wherever the LAFCOs are. The other thing that I thought was interesting is I got to spend approximately 14 hours in an automobile with Commissioner Freeman, who I will say is approximately the same age as my children, so I sort of understood him on a generational level, but communicates with respect to how people receive information that is on their electronic devices several centuries ahead of the way that I communicate, which is like reading books and writing things out in longhand. So it was an extremely interesting experience, and sort of led me to the realization that if we're going to put out information, we probably need to figure out how to put it out in a digestible form online so that people can actually use it. So I may be thinking of some ways to collaborate in doing that in the coming year, but it seems like a useful thing that we could do.
Very good. Anyone from Santa Barbara? Mr. Freeman doesn't want to comment on those 16 hours, so we're going to let that slide. We'll move to the next.
I didn't get a doctor's bill, so I could.
Do we need motions on all these? Or okay, let's just go to the next item then. Item 2.
Chair Lavanino, members of the commission. Informational item number 2 is to receive and file a report on the LAFCO board elections.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. We did have an election, as I mentioned, on Thursday morning at the regional caucus, and Commissioner Waterfield was running for the city seat, and unfortunately was not elected. The incumbent, which is always a problem, Maggie Moeller from the city of Napa, was pretty vocal and convincing, and was elected to a new 2-year term. But we do appreciate Commissioner Waterfield's interest in.
They were handing out swag. You didn't have a chance.
That's all right. I think she won.
Yeah, I got a pencil or something. Had her
Okay.
name on it.
I just wanted to honor my friend's Rogers nomination.
Hey, let's move to item 3.
Chair Lavanino, members of the commission. Informational item number 3 is to receive and file a report on the LAFCO dues structure.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Paul Hood again.
You know, hold
go
on a
ahead.
second, Mr. Hood. Is there any public comment on either item 1, 2, or 3? Now I'll ask for public comment in between each of those.
Yes, Chair Lavanino and members of the commission. We have no requests to speak so far on any informational items.
Okay, I'll ask in between each one. So item 3. Sorry.
The LAFCO dues revision was discussed fairly in a lengthy discussion at the business meeting on Thursday morning. And at the end result, I'll just skip to the chase here, is that of the LAFCOs that voted yes, 38 LAFCOs voted yes, 10 voted no, and 10 were absent. As you may recall, that particular time, there was a big fire incident in North Sonoma County in some of the areas, so some of the LAFCOs were not represented, or maybe just decided not to attend this particular session. It's hard to tell. But so the bylaws were amended as indicated in Exhibit A in the staff report, and the due structure was included for beginning in 2021. Exhibit B is, we did have a discussion a couple of months ago about the formula that was used, and it was very, again, kind of hard for them to explain, but we ended up being the recipient of the new due structure, and on Exhibit C, There's a breakdown of the votes, the very last page, of who voted yes, who was absent, and who voted no. So I'd be happy to go into more detail if you wish, but I think that at this point, it's already done.
It is what it is. Okay, Mr. Hood, is this something that comes up every year? Will this be
No.
at 38 to 10? It's probably not going to come up for a while, I would
It
imagine.
won't come up for a while. I'm not exactly sure when, but this was a very complicated,
Right. Contentious.
discussion. And so I don't think that the membership would want to do this again on a yearly basis.
Okay.
So I don't know if anybody has any comments
Any-
on this item.
Mr. Hood, Mr. Welt? Yeah.
The change in the due structure, is it up or down, sideways?
The current year, it's $4,350, and we paid that in fiscal year 2019-20. For 2021, it increases by approximately $3,000. So our budget for 2021 is $6,355. So it's not that much, but it's an increase of $3,005. So it's not substantial.
Okay. All right, that takes us to item 4. Is there any public, let's read it in first, and then we'll see if there's any public comment.
Chair Levanino and members of the commission, informational item number 4 is to receive and file a report on the 2019 Cal LAFCO legislative activities. And we have no request to speak on this item.
Okay, Mr. Hood?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I've given you a list in Exhibit A of the bills that were tracked by Cal LAFCO as of October 14th. Some of the bills are, fairly interesting. I didn't go or print out copies of all of these bills because there's about 20 or 25 bills. But we did, legal counsel and myself did have a chance to look at these. And, including the Omnibus Bill Validation Acts. There was some bills that have impacts on LAFCO operations. VLF money was again looked at as being available for annexations and corporations of new cities. That change did not pass, vehicle license fees. And some of the bills that Cal LAFCO sponsored passed, and some that required money to be designated for studies of special districts did not pass and was not signed by the governor. And so we'll probably have that come back again. Water systems, disadvantaged unincorporated communities were looked at in some detail. Didn't see any real significant changes in the Cal LAFCO, the LAFCO statutes. And we are getting copies of the Cortese Knox Hertzberg, the amended, with all of the amendments in. And if commissioners would like copies of that, I would certainly I'll be ordering those in the next few days, and get copies by the end of the year. And make those available to you if you want 3 hole punched or bound. We usually like the bound copies because they're a little easier to carry around. And so do we look like we have maybe 5 or 6? Okay,
I would like one.
I think you just go ahead and get one for everybody. I see everybody's hand up.
okay,
Except,
let's go ahead and do that.
okay, let's move on to item 5. Madam Clerk?
Chair Levanino and members of the commission, informational item number 5 is to receive and file a report on the 2020 Cal LAFCO events calendar.
Any public comment?
And we have no request to speak on this item.
Shocking. All right.
This is the Cal LAFCO events calendar. What brought my attention was the March 25th through the 27th, which is the Cal LAFCO staff workshop, Newport Beach, and the annual conference on October 21st through the 23rd in Monterey. And there's various legislative committee meetings, Cal LAFCO Board of Directors meetings that commissioners are available if they want to attend those. There's also the Association of the UCLA Land Use Conference that comes up every year that's available if the commissioners want to attend, and so it's pretty self-explanatory as far as the calendar of events.
Okay.
Concludes my comments.
Okay, I don't see anybody's hand up, so let's move to item 6.
Chair Levanino and members of the commission, informational item number 6 is to receive and file a report on the San Antonio Basin Water District election. And we have no request to speak on this item.
Again,
Mr. Hood?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'll be brief. At the July 11th meeting, the commission approved the formation of the San Antonio Basin Water District. subject to an election. We held a protest hearing when less than 50% of the landowners protested. At the October 3rd meeting, the commission directed the Board of Supervisors to order county elections to conduct a landowner election. Your commission also approved a ballot measure and the impartial analysis. On November 5th, the Board of Supervisors considered these recommendations, and I've given you the minute order in the staff report, and directed that a mail ballot election be conducted on April 7th, 2020. And I've attached the resolution, so that brings us up to date on that. And appreciate the board's action in county elections following through.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. We'll move on to item 7.
Chair Lavanino and members of the commission, informational item number 7 is to receive and file a report on the Jannon Acres Quail Valley Sphere of Influence determination, and we have no requests to speak on this item.
Mr. Hood?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Jannon Acres has been an issue over the past year and a half, where we've had annexations that have been proposed or out-of-agency service agreements in Jannon Acres area that your commission has looked at on a case-by-case basis. A couple of times the chairman has signed an out-of-agency service agreement because of a failing septic tank. We've had a couple of meetings. On August 12th, your staff met with representatives of the city of Solvang, Santa Ynez CSD, County Environmental Health Services, and the discussion item was to amend the city's sphere of influence to include Jannon Acres in the Santa Ynez CSD sphere of influence. And the eventual goal would be to annex the whole area to the Santa Ynez CSD. The Santa Ynez CSD has a sewage collection line adjacent to the Jannon Acres area between Solvang and Santa Ynez along Highway 246. And Commissioner Joan Hartman, that's her name, is calling a meeting next week, and we will be meeting with representatives of all of the affected agencies, and with the goal in mind of changing the sphere of influence and eventually annexing the area to the Santa Ynez CSD. It's currently within Solvang's sphere of influence, so there is some possibility of including it in both spheres of influence. However, we've had some issues recently with an area being included in both spheres of influence that make it kind of difficult to work out who's going to be providing services. And so one of the items of discussion would be if Solvang is interested in deleting the sphere of influence for the area and including it in Santa Ynez CSD sphere of influence. So we'll see how that goes. And the meeting is scheduled for next week.
Okay, very good. Questions from anybody, comments? All right. That takes us to item number 8.
Chair Lavanino, members of the commission, informational item number 8 is to receive and file a status report on the audited financial statements for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019.
Mr. Hood?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The commission approved an engagement letter with Bartlett, Pringle, and Wolf to perform audits of financial statements, an outside audit. They look independently at the LAFCO budget. And through June 30th, 2018 through 2020, we have begun that process in about a month ago, and we were informed by the principal in the firm, the partner in the firm, that there are recent legislation that requires the partner rotation of audits. So that kind of delayed some of our processing, but we're moving ahead with a new partner in the firm and anticipate that this completed final audit would come back to your commission for approval on February 6th, 2020 meeting in Santa Maria.
Okay, very good. So that takes us to our commissioner and staff announcements. Are there any commissioner announcements or requests for future agenda items? And I think I had one. I thought I saw in here it has the proposed calendar for next year.
That was on consent.
That was a consent item? Okay, oh, it is. Okay, that's why we didn't talk about it. All right, cool. All right, I thought somehow we missed that. All right, I'll wake up in just a second. And do we have executive officer comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The main item I want to bring up to you is something that I've been sending you emails of newspaper articles and letters from our county planning and development director on the Bailey Avenue reorganization that is adjacent to the city of Lompoc. We did receive a draft memorandum of agreement a few days ago, and the city is wanting the county P&D to respond to that draft MOA. And they've given the county planning and development director until December 23rd to respond to that letter. I think that I'm glad they didn't say December 25th, but 23rd is close enough to Christmas that, they, I think, will be getting comments back. So the process, we're not really involved in the planning and land use aspect because LAFCO is not a planning and land use agency. We don't have control over general plans or land use and zoning requirements. But we do have control over the annexation or reorganization, which is an annexation that's been proposed, and detachment from a number of districts, county fire district, and so on. That there is a process for a complete application where the applicants need to file the justification of proposal and some of the things that are required on our LAFCO website, including a map and legal description. There is, since our commission approved the ag and open space policies, we now have a proposal as one of the policies that the city and the county should agree, or should agree on zoning and land use within the proposed area, which is zoned for agriculture, and it's prime agricultural land. So we will get that application completed. I'm not sure that we will be able to have a memorandum of agreement that's been approved by the City Council and the Board of Supervisors that will go with that. But it's something that the city would like to see, although there are big differences in what the county planning and development office would like to see in that agreement and what the city of Lompoc would like to see in the agreement. And doesn't look like, you're not going to make a judgment, but it looks like both sides are pretty far different in what they would like to see in the memorandum of agreement. But there is also a requirement for a property tax exchange that would be approved by the county and by the city if it gets to the point where there is an active application. And we've gone through several of those negotiations pursuant to the Revenue Tax Code Section 99. And that usually takes a long time, even if both sides are in agreement. So I'll keep you posted on what's happening with this and send you a copy of the proposed MOA. I was thinking about waiting until the county responded to it, but I think it might be worth sending it out to the commissioners so you have a chance to take a look at it.
Okay. Mr. Stark?
Well, I have a question and I think a comment. My question is, am I correct that a Revenue and Tax Code Section 99 agreement, if the parties don't agree, there's a dispute resolution procedure that's written into the R&T code until eventually there's supposed to be a result coming out of it. Right. So if they don't approve, they have to run whatever the mediation dispute resolution process is. I'm correct on that?
That's correct.
My second question maybe is born of what seems to be age-old skepticism here. I'm not sure that I see the advantage in our seeing a draft agreement that hasn't been actually agreed to by the cities and the counties. I'm not sure that it's all that wise of an idea if LAFCO jumps into the middle of what I think is intended to be a bilateral negotiation between the city and the counties. I'm not sure how useful it is to see a draft.
Anybody else have any comments? Did you want?
No, my only
Speak to
comment,
that,
yes,
Mr.
I think I agree with that. I don't want to withhold information from the commission, but it's an agreement that has input from one side. from the city. The county has not weighed in on it. And so I'm not sure that's really, unless somebody wants to see it, if it's really, worth that much.
Maybe
until
that's what we
get
do is
comments.
make the offer that if any commissioner would like to review it, that they can come and speak to you about it. But,
Right.
okay. All right. Does that conclude your comments?
Those are my comments. My
Okay.
only last comment was that I did meet with the grand jury a few weeks ago, and it actually is in Solvang. So it was in the same courthouse where they meet is in the Solvang office on Mission Drive. So I can't talk about it, but we had.
That's all you can tell us.
I can't tell
I think you went too far
I can't tell you
already.
anything else.
At a minimum, you could probably reveal whether this is the county civil grand jury or some criminal grand jury that was convened.
It's a civil grand jury, not criminal.
Ah, that's reassuring.
All right. With that, we will adjourn until January 9th in Santa Barbara, where I believe we will be electing a new chair. Yes. Thank you.